Hi everybody, my name is Jim Burns, and today we're going to be taking a look at how a bully is made. What goes into the bully victim dynamic that causes this kid to want to just inflict hurt and pain on others. Where does this all come from? Is it something that's organic, that comes right through his DNA molecules? Is it something that's learned? Is it a combination of both? Remember, we deal with a lot of different variables in our classroom today, and families deal with a lot of different things in their homes. Kids have things go wrong with them, and right away, they may want to put the kid on medication. They start looking at the parenting techniques that are used. We start looking at the environment. We start looking at some of the fact that the kid may need therapy. We're not sure where it all comes from. But what we do know is that this kid lacks empathy. He absolutely loves engaging in power struggles with other kids. He likes to use his power on other kids, and he likes to hurt. So today we're going to take a look at how is this kid put together? How is he made? And what causes some of the things that in schools that we just don't seem to have an answer for? So today we're going to discover, how do you make a bully from scratch? And is it learned behavior? We're not sure if it's learned or if there are other variables, and I'm sure there are. Or let's take a look at some of the things that go into the making of a bully. Number one, we have to ask ourselves the question, are bullies born or made? Now, I tend to believe, that bullies are made. I really do. Some people believe that it comes down through the DNA molecules and chromosomal structures, and this kid gets scripted from conception to become a bully. And I'm sure that there's something to be said for that. There's no question about it. Okay, my thought is it's learned through modeling and through the treatment of the parents and other adults and children. Now, what we have to take a look at here is the modeling piece and how either the mother or the father treat their spouse and how they treat the children in the home, how they treat their other people outside the home as well, I think is important. What this kid observes in the home. So we have either comes down through the DNA, or is it learned through modeling? Now, I want to share something very quickly here, and I think it is absolutely worth discussing, and that's this: whether or not someone genetically is predisposed to something. Someone could be predisposed to diabetes, could be predisposed to heart disease. There's a lot of different things that someone could be predisposed to. I want to make it clear that the research supports the fact that people are influenced by those factors. They're not determined. In other words, they do have the ability to cause you or I or anyone else to end up with those conditions genetically, but we as individuals have to take responsibility for our own health, for watching what we eat, exercising, and a lot of other things that can help prevent some of those conditions from affecting us. So we are influenced genetically, but there's a responsibility that we have in terms of making sure that we don't end up with the same condition as our mother or father, or our grandparents. And truthfully, it's the same thing here. Kids, are affected. A person is affected through their DNA and through genetics to possibly be a bully. But he's influenced by it, he's not determined, and loving parents and parents who care for their children, who look out for them, who know how to discipline, who know how to set boundaries correctly, can make all the difference in the world in terms of whether or not this kid becomes a bully or not. So are they born or made? My thought is it's learned through modeling. It's what children observe in the home. Now, next, let's take a look at modeling. Children will model their parents. What they see their parents do, they're going to do. Parents have an imprint from their own upbringing. In other words, there's something scripted in them from their own upbringing. What we want to understand here is the social and emotional window to the brain closes somewhere around the age of 5. So whatever the conclusions are that someone draws, whether they be right or wrong, okay, those are the conclusions that they take with them moving forward. You've heard the old expression, everything you ever wanted to know you learned in kindergarten. Well, it's true, because the seeds are planted at a certain age, and once the seeds are planted, the greenhouse window comes down, and those seeds start to grow, and as they grow, okay, they begin to turn into redwood trees. And if they're false conclusions that a person has, and they are carrying these false conclusions with them through life, and they are affecting them in life, in other words, they may have anger issues, they may have self-esteem issues, and so on, and if they carry those issues with them through life, what we have to do is break the window to go in and rearrange those thoughts, and that's known as therapy. Now, if that imprint that produces anger, if that imprint produces anger and bitterness, that's what the children are going to use as an example. So the children model their parents. Parents have an imprint from their upbringing, and if the imprint produces anger and bitterness, that's what the kids have to use as an example moving forward. So therein lies some of the learned behavior that we just spoke about. Now, victims of bullying are very bitter. Now, here are just some of the symptoms. Okay? They don't know how to resolve conflicts. Something goes wrong, they have a fight, they don't know how to give and take, and they don't know how to produce in the home some type of win-win, if you will. They look to get even. Once they end up having some difficulty with someone in the home, like their spouse or their children or whatever the case may be, they withdraw. Sometimes they end up leaving the house, and they disappear for a few days. They have outbursts of anger, and they will subtly attack you. They're going to make comments to you. There's going to be sarcasm, and they're going to attack you with that sarcasm. They condescend to you. They criticize you. They're suspicious, and they distrust everybody, and they're hypersensitive. Those are some of the symptoms or the evidences of bitterness. If someone is angry enough, they will end up exhibiting some of these symptoms. Now, how does the victim become the bully in the home? The victim, and by that I mean a victim who was victimized when he was younger, and it became an unresolved youth conflict. Remember, unresolved youth conflict becomes an adult conflict going forward. Now, we've had the unresolved conflict. The victim didn't really deal that well with the bully. Maybe his mother or his father got involved too much. He couldn't handle confrontations, whatever the case may be. Okay, and what starts to happen is that unresolved conflict is now an adult conflict, and the victim is now angry, and they use fear and intimidation in the home with his or her loved ones. The victim now, because of the anger, is using fear and intimidation on others. They don't know how to discipline their kids, and what they end up doing is setting their boundaries in anger, and there isn't any real consequences in the home. And the children in the home are becoming more and more angry because this person, whether it be mom or dad, they lack coping skills, and every single small thing that goes on, okay, they react to it. They start raising their voice. They start becoming angry. They start becoming distrustful. They start having all of those evidences that we just spoke about in terms of bitterness, all of the evidence in terms of bitterness, and they start to really shove mom or dad and the children around in the home. They become abusive, and the family becomes the victim of domestic violence. This is all because a victim didn't know how to deal with the bullying problem that they had when they were younger. The youth conflict became an adult conflict. They took it with them going forward, and they end up taking out that anger and rage on other people. Now, here's the message that the children get in the home. I can get what I want by using fear and intimidation. Remember, they're getting this from the victim, not the bully. It's the victim who is now an adult that they get this information from. This behavior then gets brought into school and to other relationships. So the victim now produces the bully. The bully takes the behavior that they have learned into other relationships, and that victim, whether it be mom or dad, just produced the next bully that we deal with in school. Remember, the message is, I get what I want by using fear and intimidation. That behavior gets brought into school and other relationships, and the victim, the person who was victimized, produced the next bully. Now, this is a process. This goes on year after year. And what we have to begin to take a look at is the fact that bullying is intergenerational. And in order to stop it, we have to deal with the parents, potentially a parent who was victimized. We may have to deal with grandparents, and then we have to deal with the children. Okay, here's some of the things that I believe could be a solution. But this list is certainly not exhausted. Okay, there are other things that we can do, some of which I'm not even aware of. But here is just my thought on this. Number one, more time and effort needs to be placed on strengthening the victims of bullying. In other words, these kids can't handle confrontations. They don't have resiliency, as you see in the next bullet point. They don't have resiliency. They don't have the capacity to manage relationships. So we have to put more emphasis on the victim, not on the bully. Help the victim deal with difficult situations. More money needs to be put into the mental health industry to create awareness about the effects of bullying on victims. Oh, it's easy to say stop bullying. Well, what do you do with children who are weak, who can't handle confrontations, who grow up, go to work every day, have trouble with their boss, they can't even speak their own mind, and they don't even know how to draw boundaries, and they get taken advantage of? That's a problem. A bully never walked in and shot up a school. Remember that. A bully never walked in and shot up a school. It's always been the victim. This is why we need to deal. We need to work with and help the victims of bullying. It is no joke, folks. It is something that needs to be looked at. It's something that needs to be dealt with. If we don't, you're going to have more angry people, more bitter people, more people who are going to go around and who are going to not only produce bullies, but because of their anger, what they're going to do is they are going to act out in society. This is something that we need to take a look at and we need to deal with. And we need to realize that it is the victim that produces the next bully. And it is the victim who will seek vengeance on society, in their home, in schools, and potentially in a place of business. Now, my friends, you have this information. Please do me a favor. Share this with others. Make others aware that the bully, the victim, can produce the next bully. And show them this video, because this is something that we all need to be made aware of. My name is Jim Burns. You have just been in the Bully Proof Classroom's online academy. I encourage you to take a look at some of the other courses. Just go to www.bpconlineacademy.com. I'm sure you'll find something there that's useful. There's plenty of resources. There's something there for everybody that everyone can use. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you take it to heart and begin to use it to help other people. Thank you.